All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another exciting edition of Two Men in Black. Just a couple of guys, a couple of old friends from back in the day trying to continue the pursuit and advocacy for justice in America. We want it to be colorblind. We understand it is not. So we are trying to understand our communities better and better through our respective communities, the Black and Jewish American communities. Brock and Ellis is with me from the beautiful confines of the upper Hudson River Valley, just outside New York City. And Brock, I heard a good one today. Check this out. So basically, MAGA was right, is what they're saying now. I was told that if I voted for Kamala Harris, gas prices would go through the roof, the economy would tank, we'd be in a war with Iran, right? I voted for Kamala Harris, and all those things happened. There you have it, right? In a nutshell. And all the Epstein files have yet to be released, right? Because we have wagged the dog, right? The dog is dead now. The tail has been wagged so much. But let's begin, Brock, with no way out. Trump's kill your way out of this isn't going to work. 90 million people live in Iran. 90 million. You're not killing your way out of there. They're kicking our ass right now, which is why you have all this, off-ramp talk. So his latest deadline is April 6th. What say you?
So that's the 10-day moratorium, right, that he's slapped on there because negotiations are going so well. I mean, we've kind of been hearing our whole lives, right? Wars are easy to get into and hard to get out of. This was an easy one to get into, right? Bring some ships into the sea, fly a bunch of planes, drop a bunch of bombs, and okay, we're in the war. We're celebrating our tactical acumen,
right?
But there's always unforeseen outcomes. Although this was the simplest and the most foreseeable outcome, that the Strait of Hormuz would get jammed up one way or the other, and oil would not flow in the same way that it normally does, and oil prices would go up, and it would affect the global economy. And I mean, that's the simplest one. So now gas prices are up $1 plus nationally, everywhere. So the American consumer's feeling it. I thought one of the more interesting highlights of today, or lowlights of today, was the fact that the S&P 500 was down close to 2%. And that just is finally telling you that the moneyed class has lost confidence in this war, in our ability to get out of this war without medium, at least, damage. And I think it's a vote of no confidence on Trump in general, that they just want to get, in essence, sell, get out of the way, and come back into the marketplace when this has been figured out. But I don't think it's the last day that the market tanks, because we're stuck. Right. We're fucking stuck. You tell me, what is a viable end game for America here? I want us to just pack up our bags, declare victory, and send everybody home.
Right.
Will Israel and Saudi Arabia let us do that? Or are they still the decision makers, and they're telling Trump the job's not done and you'll look bad if you pull out now, so they somehow have shamed him into continuing?
Or they have Jared and they're telling him they're going to Khashoggi him if they don't continue bombing. We might have a hostage situation. Have we seen Jared lately? Where the hell is he? And why are we aligning ourselves with this sociopath in Saudi Arabia? I mean, we know this guy is nuts. The guy is a psycho.
Yeah, he doesn't care.
He could care less.
He doesn't care. Iran's their enemy. He's winning on all of this. The other person who's as absent as Jared is Marco Rubio. I mean, he is the Secretary of State, isn't he? Like, he's the number one diplomat in America.
Right.
And I can't remember the last time I've seen him make a statement. I don't even get the sense that he's even involved at all in any of the discussions that are going on in the Middle East. Is he?
Right. Not that I've heard. I haven't seen anything from him.
Have you ever seen a Secretary of State so absent in a time of war? I mean, it's kind of amazing. He's the invisible man.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
You got Jared and that other real estate guy have been the ones running around the Middle East getting their palms greased.
The corruption is the corruption. It's amazing how focused all these government officials are on increasing their own wealth and lining their own pockets, meanwhile fleecing the American people. And the American people, we're just sitting here taking it. We are just taking it. Like, why have we not demanded that Donald Trump step down? Donald Trump, get the fuck out of there. JD Vance, better step in there and act like a normal human being. But we've got this Looney Tune in there who's doing everything he can to keep up. We already know the real Donald Trump, the rapist, the sexual predator, the maniac, sociopath that he is. We already know. We've seen enough of the Epstein file. Now we want the whole shebang, right? We know how many lives that the Epstein, sex trafficking pipeline has claimed. Even those that didn't die are scarred for life. You know why? Because they're telling us they are. They were children when it happened. They were teens. And they're in their 30s and 40s now, and they're telling us that the effects are still lasting. Well, that's a fucking surprise. No, it isn't. Because the trauma they suffered was incorrigible. And all of those who took part in the Epstein sex trafficking pipeline need to be punished. There should be more than Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell in prison right now.
Well, we haven't seen a shred of new documentation on the Epstein files in a good month.
What, 2 months? Yeah.
But I'll tell you what disappoints me. I'm disappointed that there aren't more voices calling for impeachment.
Yep.
I mean, yes, you can call for 25th Amendment, but we kind of know that administration is not going to step up. That fucking group is not going to step up and
at all
walk away from Trump. But why is there not more talk of impeachment? Even on the Democratic side, we should have a louder drumbeat about the fact that Trump is unfit to be president of the United States, and constantly pointing out exactly why, be it the corruption, be it his disgraceful, breaking international law, but also just a disgraceful management as commander-in-chief. Just in the Epstein files. I mean, you just, every day there could be a new reason for impeachment on why Trump is unfit.
Right.
And try to make that more of a story. Make more of the story be the discussion that 2/3 of the country disapproves of Trump.
Right.
And he's corrupt. And he's a pedophile. And he's unfit to be commander-in-chief. So, Hey, MAGA politicians, how are you still supporting this?
Right. Makes no sense.
It may not change their behavior, but it may change the narrative of what we talk about here in the country. And we should be talking about Trump's removal, not trying to put sanity around his lunacy and pretend like there's a strategy behind what he's working on. Like, he says the election was rigged because he needs to stay in power. Because if he doesn't stay in power, the Epstein files come out and he's exposed as one of the world's greatest sexual offenders, right? So he's got to protect that. So everything he says is in protection of that behavior because he knows what's in those files.
Yeah.
So he's got to do scratch and claw not to allow it to happen. But we on the left have to keep bombarding the airwaves and the narrative and the national discussion as to the fact that Trump is unfit for the job. The Iran war is it's just been glaring. I mean, it's the worst managed military operation in American history.
Well, I mean, you can't have a successful military operation without planning. And this was poorly planned and executed with Neolithic incompetence. I mean, this was like something they just pulled out of their ass and said, hey, why don't we go bomb Iran today? I'm not busy this afternoon. Are you? Right here, push the button. I mean, I'm shocked that military leaders, the brass in our military, are putting our men and women in harm's way like this just on the what up though, on the willy-nilly. I'm shocked.
That there have not been resignations.
Resignations, flat out defiance. Somebody standing up and saying, wait a minute, you're going to get, thousands of American soldiers, killed and hacked up and maimed. We're also going to spend billions of dollars on resources in a war that you can't win. And in a war that we have no good purpose for. That's the problem that pisses me off. No one can tell us why we're in this war with Iran. But Iran can tell you they've been waiting for this shit because they've been preparing for 20 years. And now they're kicking our asses. We're sorry about it, and we can't get out. Now we got to tuck tail and run, and we really don't look like, the world's preeminent superpower right now.
Well, the real reason behind the war is creating a massive problem for American Jews, much of it of their own doing, by, kind of playing games with Trump, tacitly approving of his behavior because he's, quote, pro-Israel, turning the other cheek and being accepting of what went on in Gaza and just the absolute destruction of the people of Gaza and the war crimes that went on there, and being supportive of that all the way through because of the, October 7. We understand the revenge that they wanted. But now this next step of being supportive of Netanyahu and allowing him and being tacitly complicit with him manipulating our dementia-ridden leader to get us into this war and to stay supportive of, in essence, Israel, even though they're being led by a lunatic also, which has taken them down a terrible path. But the fact that we've allowed and played along with America being sucked into this war is just disgraceful. And the fact that we still let AIPAC run around and manipulate primaries and decide even on the left and the Democratic Party which candidates are going to have an advantage in primaries because they're throwing so much money at it when they're single issue PAC, right? They're just a pro-Israel, pro-Netanyahu PAC. Really, they're not. And, Hakeem Jeffries and Schumer and all these AIPAC-funded politicians in the Democratic Party will not make a strong statement against this war, will not make a strong statement against Israel manipulating the U.S. into this war because they're funded by AIPAC, and that's pro-Israel money. And the Democratic Party has totally fallen down on this Iran war because our leaders of the party are heavily lobbied and funded and protectors, in essence, of the Israel lobby. And Netanyahu has taken Israel off course as far as Trump has taken America off course. And to be supportive of Netanyahu at this point, to me, is sheer lunacy. And,
right.
and within this whole mess of comments that I just made, it's created waves of anti-Semitism in America. And it's just going to make life worse for American Jews. And a lot of it is our own doing.
Yeah. Let's dive into that a little bit because I still don't really understand America's obsession with anti-Semitism. Tell me a little bit about how Americans feel, Jewish Americans, are they aligned with what Israel is doing and that's what creates the anti-Semitism? Or is it just the fact that they are American Jews?
No, I think it's a split. I think there's a split amongst American Jews, although I think I'm still in the minority as being as aggressively anti-Netanyahu as I am. I think if my friend group is indicative and my circle of Jews in my circle is indicative, there's still a pro-Israel sentiment, even a support for Netanyahu, even if it's a hold your nose and support Netanyahu because he is the leader of Israel, because Israel's always under attack. So therefore, you can justify just about any aggressive action that Israel takes because they're surrounded by enemies. And it's true, they are surrounded by enemies. But you can't be, in my opinion, that doesn't mean you should be supportive of any military action Israel takes just because they're surrounded by enemies. Like, that's not a get out of war crimes free card, right? That doesn't totally justify any action. So just like you say, blacks aren't monolithic. I mean, Jews mostly vote Democratic, but they vote Democratic for mostly, primarily for politicians that are pro-Israel. Democratic Party is tending to be pro-Israel. And right now there's a rift in the Democratic Party between those that think Israel committed war crimes in Gaza and those that think it was, justified retaliation. I don't see how this Iran war isn't a bridge too far.
Right.
But the fact that Israel has manipulated the United States into a war that is causing severe damage on the U.S. economy and in essence is hurting American national interests. There's no way that has no way of not triggering additional anti-Semitism. Because it's just going to mean non-Jewish Americans are just going to be more pissed at Israel. Those fuckers manipulated our idiotic president into this shitty war that's forcing me to pay $1 a gallon more in gas. So you're going to get mad at Jews. So anti-Semitism is on the rise, and it's going to be on the rise because it's more Americans going to be lashing out at Israel for fucking America, which is what they did. They fucked America.
Big time.
Still fucking America because they won't stop this war, right? So now they want U.S. troops in there, and like there's the manipulation still going on.
Yep.
So
and we're falling for it. The banana in the tailpipe. Breaking news happening right now. Trump says he's going to sign an order to pay the TSA agents finally because that shit's a mess.
From where? First of all, Congress is in charge of the purse strings. So how does Trump executive order actually have any relevance or validity when we have a separation of powers and the president does not have the power of the purse?
Right.
Budgeting is done by the Congress. So tell me how this executive order, where's the money coming from? Is he just going to tell the Treasury Secretary and we're just going to print money? Or he's got the ATM code and he's
national emergency, he's saying. Yep, I'm reading it.
I don't know. That's going to end up at the Supreme Court. Once again, it's another bullshit. Pull it out of his ass. I got to get myself out of this because everybody's mad about what's going on at the airport. So I'm going to make something up. And now that's going to have to go to the Supreme Court because based on the Constitution, Trump doesn't have.
Well, remember what this is all about, right? This is all about the funding of Homeland Security and ICE, right? And those billions and billions of dollars that were given to ICE to go round up brown people and others, right? Because that's what's going on here. The Democrats have refused to sign off on these spending bills because it includes DHS and the nightmare that they've created in America.
So they've already come to Trump with a revised bill that would fund TSA and not fund DHS and ICE. And he turned that down. So instead, he's going to write an executive order and pretend like he's the one that's decided this instead of actually just signing or of endorsing the bill that the Senate was working on.
Right.
He's a fucking idiot. I mean, this is the idiocy that everyone is dancing around because we actually have no logic in our political system because the leader is a dementia-ridden, narcissistic fucking moron.
Yep.
So this executive order is just going to be another fucking clusterfuck, and it's going to have to go to the courts, and then Congress is going to have to, Congress doesn't have to really do anything. Now the courts will have to decide whether Trump has that authority. I'm pretty certain he does not.
And TSA and Americans will suffer in the meantime.
But Trump's just grandstanding here because he's trying to look like he's the hero trying to get shit done.
Right.
Because the approval's at 34% and declining. And it's probably down a little bit more because when the S&P 500's down 2%, now you're going to peel off some of those upper middle class to upper class white people now are going to start getting pissed because that finally, they're impacted by Trump's lunacy.
Right. Yeah, it's crazy. Multiple airports experiencing more than 40% call-out rates of TSA workers. Delta Airlines, in a surprise move, standing with TSA agents or TSA workers and throwing their support behind them. That's a big move for, the red company. If you had to put a color on these companies, red or blue, Delta's definitely going red.
It's got to be affecting them in the bottom line, right? As much as you said, the flights are going to go off anyway, even if you're stuck in the line. But there'll be a decline in people buying airline tickets when the airports are jammed up like this. People will just defer trips. Any leisure trips might get deferred. Shit, some people may even decide, I was going to say to drive instead of fly, but with gas up so much, I don't know. Right. That's a toss-up.
No good option.
It's just hurting. It hurts travel in general. Airlines feel it first. They're just looking for a way for this to end. But, the airline CEOs are such pussies. They didn't say shit about the FAA cuts, right? They've gotten along to get along or whatever that quote is. I tried to say it the other day. I know I'm saying it wrong, but like, right?
Get along, get along.
They've just stayed quiet and didn't want to get on Trump's wrong side. Now they're, piling on what is an obvious, just absolute buffoonery at the airports, right? It's 4.5 hours in Houston, right? 4.5 hour wait times.
Yeah.
That's the average. That means you
Look,
probably got
no
some
one
people on there
obviously
for like
cares about
7
the
hours.
American public. Yeah, look, if you've got a 6 o'clock flight and you're at the airport at midnight and you're on your feet all night and you arrive to your business meeting at 9 a.m., how in the hell do you think you're going to be able to work? Like, you put your workday in just trying to board the plane. It's a fucking wreck. And no one is coming to say